I always start a perspective drawing with horizon line, and this helps me understand and sort of frame how I want to make my drawing. And if I put the horizon line like I usually do around the bottom quarter or the bottom third, I means I'm going to be drawing more above the horizon line than below. It's kind of obvious, but it means that I'm going to emphasize more that's above me than that's below me. And I'll start using this little Sharpie pen, which I really like, to just start to sketch out the major masses and the forms that I see. In this one, this elephant elephant statue in Sausalito was sort of the focal point of this drawing. So I started off with just by drawing the detail in that. I like the Sharpie pens because they are easy to find, they have a great black color, they're very reliable, and they're waterproof. So I can do watercolor over them after I draw and not worry about the colors running.
This thing?
This is a little GoPro camera, and so
it's a GoPro
yeah, so
camera.
it's recording what I'm drawing while I'm drawing.
Oh wow!
It's recording the sketches.
Amazing.
Thanks.
So the woman just asked about the apparatus that I'm using to record this, which is a GoPro camera made on this mount that I made and designed and 3D printed. And I put it up on the Thingiverse site, and I'll share the links with you on that down below. At this point, I have the rough sketch now, and I can choose which way I want to go. I could do additionally with just ink and draw it up with ink. I could use marker. I could use watercolor, which I decided to do this time with watercolor. And it is sometimes I mix the media. I use different media. I'll use pens and watercolor. I'll use colored pencil and marker. I'll use colored pencil, watercolor together. Just, it's wherever I want, I get the right effect and the right color, and have, try to make something that is interesting. And when you're doing watercolor, you don't have to paint the whole thing. The beauty of watercolor quite often is the white that you left at, or you leave in there. And what I'm doing right now is I'm sort of mixing together a couple of different paints to find a blue that I want to use to start with. See, as I put the water on the page, it moves around. It creates these total randomness aspects, these random aspects to the water flowing around the page. And as I add the blue to the page, I'm keeping that randomness there. I'm not trying to make it uniform. It's really the most interesting when it's not uniform. So I'm adding a couple different colors. Add a little purple to this. So I'm adding a little purple back into this side too, to the right side. Two of my favorite paints that I have are these two in the bottom right, a gold and a silver. I got these at Case for Making in San Francisco, and they make their own watercolors. And these actually are this gold and silver, and as they dry, you start to see the sparkly nature of them. And so I use this, I actually kind of overuse it sometimes, but I really use it to add, I can make, I add a sort of a sparkly or add a certain interesting nature to it. And when you're doing watercolor, you don't have to be correct. You can, the tonality and the intensity of the colors matters more than actually the colors themselves. So as you start to add colors to this, you play with how the colors sort of move through this wet medium and how the pigments move around. And that's the beauty of watercolors. You see it forming as the watercolor is drying and as it's moving around the page. And then the challenge with this is since it's not a flat page, it's a page in a book. I have to, if I take my hand off, it moves, and so that's why you see my finger right down on the page, so it doesn't move. A little bit of silver to that. So, understanding where you have different opposite colors, you use these opposites together. So, the opposite of like an orange might be a blue, or you might have a purple go against that. So you really play with these different intensities, different colors, and start to build around and try to make something that's more interesting through color. Other two colors, the bright green that's in the upper left that I'm using right there, and then there's the bright red second from the top on the right. I got these other two colors at Case for Making as well, and I wanted to add a little more vibrancy. And these are colors that are not really incredibly natural for the scene in Sausalito, but I wanted to use them, and I use these in conjunction with other colors as you see that these colors moving around the page. And you sort of see how interesting it gets as you add other colors to it, so that they have more of a gradient effect. So I switched to a different watercolor brush. These are all water brushes. They have water reservoirs in them. And I switched to one that was a finer tip because I wanted to add a little more color detail to this. So that fine tip lets me add be a little more precise in the details that I add to the color. those orbs, the light orbs there. Purple is one of my favorite colors to add low lights or add some shadow. It just has this royal nature to it. It has this great vibrancy, and it lets me have a little fun with this, because you look out in the scene, you take a picture, it's not purple, but this really lets me do something that is interesting and adds a little. I use this for a little shade in here. Shade and shadow lets me do that. Fun technique that I've seen and I've used before in watercolor is only add color to the main element. So in this case, if I were to do that, I might only put color in the elephant statue, or maybe just the sky, or maybe in the scene of an ocean, maybe the water. But in this case, I really wanted to have a little more color in this. I want to sort of make the buildings on the right sort of have a real definition to it. So I'm going to add a little bit of red in here. So it's a really intense red, so there's going to be a huge contrast between you'll see the real definition of the building next to the statue. And typically when I use color, I don't use them straight out of the pan or straight out of the pan. I'll mix them in the mixing area before I add them in. But in this case, I'm going to do a little mixing on the surface as well. So here I'm adding a little definition to the steps. So, it's adding this detail to this. It's about done here, and I can add more detail, or I can add more. In this case, I'm adding a little bit of a shade area to give that a little more dimensionality, but I think I'm about done with this one. And so what you see here is what takes me about 20 minutes, my average time for doing these kind of paintings or drawings. But if you like this, put your comments in. Give me your ideas. What do you like? What do you want me to go into? What kind of detail do you want? Because I love to share what I do here. So thank you for watching.